Welcome! In this tutorial, we discuss how IT project problems start with deficiencies in an integrator's contract. A poorly written and executed contract indicates that an integrator's ability to meet the needs of a project was not fully assessed, creating project delivery risks. Performing a risk assessment on a proposed contract can enhance the procurement process. It can determine any delivery risks in the RFP or service proposal. So let's rethink the selection of an IT project integrator by viewing their proposed contract and service proposal through a risk lens. Most IT projects that fail don't fail due to bad software. They fail because the wrong integrator was selected and the integrator's implementation was flawed. Since the 1970s, IT industry research and surveys have shown that 40 to 60% of projects experience common problems regardless of the project management framework. In many cases, contract delivery provisions or missing provisions creates conditions that make project problems not only possible, but likely. When contracts are signed without risk evaluation, contract deficiencies can set in motion project conditions that can undermine the project. Once the agreement is executed, organizations often discover that the integrator will cite a variety of reasons for poor delivery that is allowed within the contract's provisions, and as reasons to extend the project's timeline and costs. It's not unusual in this situation that project owners will discover missing penalty clauses or no enforceable acceptance criteria, resulting in the need for change orders to fix project defects. There are many legal and procurement contract issues that a lawyer and procurement officer will address. However, there are some protective clauses that relate to the project implementation process the project should have. As mentioned, many root project failure causes have been known for a long time. 4 categories where deficient contract clauses can promote project failure include: 1. Missing or weak staffing or integrator experience and responsibility clauses. 2. Missing or weak scope, schedule, and audit clauses. 3. Missing or weak delivery, payments, and termination clauses. And 4. Missing or weak project governance and risk management clauses. The remainder of this tutorial reviews some key examples of negative implications for a project when contracts have missing or weak project protection clauses. Having skilled and reliable project staff is critical for a project's success. There are contract considerations to ensure that a project is properly staffed by the integrator, such as the following. 1. Ensure the integrator has shown the prerequisite experience and is not using one or more partners in the proposal to meet the qualifications criteria. Multi-integrator implementation teams create risks in that delivery coordination can become complex. The issues potentially created by a multi-vendor team include accountability for the contractor's performance, whether the partners engage on the project as planned, and the project owner's recourse for subcontracting non-performance. 2. Another staffing issue revolves around integrator's scope responsibility. Having a contract that limits integrator responsibilities for data migration, integration, change management, testing, or end-user training can result in those implementation responsibilities being delegated to the project owners. This scenario becomes a problem when project owners have not planned the staffing, work time, funds, and skills to assume these responsibilities. This situation can lead to significant project risks and problems. 3. A contract should guarantee that the staff listed in the proposal will participate on the project. In addition, the contract should guarantee staffing skills and limit staffing changes based on project owner's assessment and approval. Integrator project staffing changes and long vacation times should be included in the contract to avoid creating a revolving door of contractor replacements, which can impact the project's timeline. 4. As suggested earlier, avoid contracts that allow the use of subcontractors since they can create a skill uncertainty issue. If your project is paying premium dollars to the integrator, your organization should get premium talent. Ensure that the contract avoids the scenario where senior experts listed in the proposal vanish after the contract is signed or initiation and junior or offshore staff replace them. A useful clause is to have named integrator key personnel in the contract with participation guarantees and staff substitutions, subject to project owner's approval. Contract clauses should also cover project scope, project schedule and milestones, and testing activities along with defect remediation. Here are some examples of types of clauses to include in the contract. 1. A critical risk is an ineffectual project management framework. A contract should have a section that details the project management approach, its phases or stages, and its tasks. A contract should have a detailed traditional schedule or a sprint schedule down to the task level. Agile is especially subject to ambiguity and uncertainty in timeline and cost, when integrators indicate that the sprints and their schedule will be defined during the project as part of the sprint planning process. This agile planning approach is especially problematic and should be avoided. 2. Having a contract where the schedule has not been validated prior to signing leads to accepting a schedule that most likely inaccurate. Often, integrators include provisions where a schedule is presented as tentative, subject to lots of change contingencies, which gives the integrator wiggle room to generate change orders to expand the scope, timeline, staffing, and costs. All contracts should have estimated schedules that are to the task level based on prior similar work. If the integrator is experienced and has done similar projects, there should be some kind of baseline schedule that is used for the proposal where the timeline assumptions can be tested. 3. Having a contract that is based on poorly defined requirements and project scope results in variance and uncertainty in a project's work, schedule, and cost. If a contract is being written that lacks detail, functional requirements, and business specifications, it's better to have a contract that has a phased implementation approach, where the initial phase is of fixed cost and duration to create detail requirements, scope, and estimates for subsequent phases. 4. As discussed, schedule and scope clauses prevent drift. Without these clauses, there can be an endless series of change orders to address missing or incorrect requirements, schedule slips, or high-defect rework. The project owner pays for integrators' estimation errors. Clauses to mitigate these issues include a detailed statement of work with assumptions, change control processes with impact analysis, integrators' responsibility for estimation accuracy, and schedule performance obligations with penalties for missed milestones. 5. Detail the testing process in process clauses to prevent the integrator and project owner from limiting testing, which can have a critical impact on defects. You must have mandatory test phases, tasks, and successful test exit criteria. IT contracts commonly have clauses that specify delivery, payment, and termination terms. Here is a quick review of some key points. 1. You can enforce delivery, but you don't want the integrator billing just for activity and not for results. IT contracts need outcome-based payment terms. 2. There is no real remedy for poor quality other than withholding paying or paying for rework. The project owner will own the cost to fix problems unless there are clauses defining quality and functional delivery acceptance terms. A contract should also have no cost defect repair terms. 3. As discussed, the integrator has limited risk in the project unless there are performance and delivery clauses. A contract should have penalties for non-performance, so the project owners are not stuck with having to pay to fix defects. 4. In a poorly executed IT contract, an integrator may keep billing even when missing milestones. A contract needs to have payments based not only on deliverables as discussed, but on achieving project milestones. Other payment clauses often found in IT contracts are holdbacks or retainage. 5. When renegotiating work, timeline or costs for remediation work doesn't remedy the problems with the integrator, termination may be required. Canceling a contract or switching integrators can be costly, with project owners paying twice for their project, once for the original implementation and again to fix or complete the work. The termination clause should include mandatory payment adjustments, documentation requirements, knowledge transfer, and transition support costs. IT project governance consists of processes, policies, and roles that guide, monitor, and respond to project risks and issues that need mitigation. Some contract considerations for governance include the following. 1. The contract needs to have detailed governance processes and an effective project management approach to ensure a project can respond to risks and continuously improve in weak performance areas. Project contracts should detail governance processes, steering committee roles and responsibilities, and audit or risk management processes for early identification and response to problems. 2. A contract should have provisions for transparent reporting that identifies project performance metrics, approval stage gates, progress tracking, and defect tracking. A contract without these conditions will be at high risk. Reporting also helps to identify whether the integrator or project owner has responsibility for owning and resolving risks and issues. 3. Part of the governance process is to ensure that stakeholders are involved in requirements, functional business specifications, design, and testing processes. When stakeholder involvement is limited, the design and implementation results cannot be guaranteed to be acceptable and possibly result in costly rework. A well-written contract will have a governance process that ensures stakeholder engagement, roles, and responsibilities. 4. To summarize, contract and integrator risk assessments are a tool to help ensure a project's success. Adding an independent IT risk manager to support the procurement team, with a checklist of provisions tailored to the unique characteristics of the IT project, can help provide a risk lens to identify missing or ineffective contract clauses that might be overlooked, leading to unnecessary project risk. A contract risk assessment will decrease IT project problems before they manifest. The assessment also provides a variety of benefits to CEOs, CFOs, CIOs, and project managers. Let's review some of the key benefits of performing a contract risk analysis. For CEOs, contract risk assessments reduce enterprise-level risk. Large implementations, when on a negative trajectory, disrupt operations, budgets, customers, and employees. Having a governance process in a contract, with escalation and decision paths, ensures that leadership remains in control of the project and it's not turned over to the vendor. For CFOs, contract risk assessments protect the business case, including staying within estimated cost, project's ROI, and realization of the business value. Independent validation of effort and cost estimates, especially for data conversion, testing, training, and post-go-live support, can reduce the likelihood of budget overruns that get hidden behind optimistic assumptions or ignored risks. For CIOs, contract risk assessments validate whether the integrator's delivery approach is realistic and achievable, and not just an elegant proposal. Risk assessments expose unrealistic work effort assumptions, staffing dependencies, project governance weaknesses, and gaps in testing, data cleansing, integrations, and tasks associated with rollouts such as security, operational readiness, or user readiness. All of these factors can undermine a successful delivery. And for project managers, contract risk assessments quantify that an integrator's project's implementation is well-defined, detailed, follows good practices, and is achievable. The strategic takeaway from this discussion is simple. The organization that builds into its procurement process a risk manager and contract risk assessment is more likely to negotiate a stronger contract, establish clearer deliverable criteria, and begin their IT implementation with realistic expectations. These outcomes reduce the chances of a stalled project initiative, cost overruns, and disagreements with their integrator on meeting contract obligations. The contract risk mitigation strategies discussed in this brief tutorial focus on whether the integrator is delivering value that is defined by the contract. A risk manager can help the procurement team enforce the terms of the contract and identify integrator delivery improvements through weekly project risk assessments. Here are a couple of closing thoughts. In the current IT environment of constrained budgets and heightened scrutiny of technology spending, evaluating integrator risks as a part of the contracting process is a governance best practice that can promote successful transformations and avoid expensive lessons learned from having a troubled project. Strong IT contracts don't just define scope, they engineer positive project outcomes and performance. We hope you found this information useful, and thanks for watching this tutorial. Visit CoffeeCat Solutions website at coffeecatsolutions.com for more risk management tutorials, to download a sample integrator evaluation matrix, and to review our risk management services.